Global Talk. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 8th season of Global Talks by Cofose. In this time, we are talking about all the themes on all the issues that you need to know about enterprises and all economic issues that you need to learn for your company and for your own development. In this time, we are going to talk about Asiashoring. And in this time, I am here with excellent person, Lawrence Allen. Lawrence, welcome to the podcast.
Great.
We are very glad to have you here. How are you doing? How do you feel?
I'm doing great. This is my second trip, Jasmine, to Lyon, and I have fallen in love with the city and the people.
Thank you very much for being with us. In this time, we are going to talk about Asiashoring. And before starting with the interview, I would like to introduce you a little bit to know that you know more about Lawrence. He worked in Asia for more than 20 years, and he was satisfying the needs of leadership in global companies in Fortune 100 in the markets of China and Asia Pacific region. He also has the leadership of 3 companies in the region of Asia Pacific, and he was the director of supply chain in Vidal Season. I guess I pronounce it well. And it was a filial of Hershey in China. So we are very glad to have you here. And I would like to start, Lawrence, with the first question. How would you define, in your own words, Asiashoring?
So Asia is the location of a very large part of the world's manufacturing, a very broad range, everywhere from shoelaces and shoes to superconductors, computers, cars, and even airplanes. So Asia, taken as a whole, is a very large piece of the world's manufacturing. Country by country, it's quite different. Japan is very advanced. Taiwan, Korea, China is also advanced in some areas, developing. Vietnam and Southeast Asia are at different stages of economic development. So manufacturing has flowed to these countries based on which is the most efficient for manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah. So moving that production to the North American, Central American region is what we would call Asiashoring.
Okay.
Moving some or a large part of that manufacturing.
So moving this manufacturing from Asia to Mexico, how can the companies take advantage of this economic movement that we are seeing most recently in the last years? We know that many companies, many companies around the world are looking for different places to establish in the best place according to times, logistics, people, labor, and all this stuff. Now we are seeing the companies establishing from Asia here in Mexico. How Mexican companies, not the international companies, Mexican companies can take advantage of this economic movement.
So to understand that whole process, we have Asia, which is just different countries, but within an economic group. You have the EU, many countries that are within an economic group. And in the Americas, we have USMCA, Canada, US, Mexico, and also Central American agreements that we're a part of. So the first thing is to think that we're all a member of this larger USMCA, North and Central American economic power. Mexico has a unique position within that alliance. Canada and Mexico have equal access to U.S. consumers, but Mexico is the low-cost producer in that group of three. So if you're going to move manufacturing from Asia to the USMCA countries, you may move some automotive or aerospace to Canada, some to US, but a large part of the manufacturing should go to Mexico, because Mexico's role within the USMCA economic group is the low-cost manufacturer. So Mexico should first see itself in this way. It's not just Mexico bringing manufacturing to Mexico. It's as part of a economic group. The big companies, large steel companies, shipbuilding companies, these are big operations that will go to Mexico's top companies. But we're talking about some of the smaller, mid-sized companies. Mexico is a country of small businesses, right? Family businesses, multi-generation. How can they participate in nearshoring or Asiashoring? I think the answer is you must be available and you must be visible. So what does that mean? You cannot sit in your office in León or somewhere in Guanajuato and wait for someone to knock on your door. You need to go out and become visible. You need to join chambers of commerce, trade associations, attend exhibitions, put your card out, put people out, hire people that have worked for multinational companies in Mexico and build a sales plan specifically targeting foreign invested companies, specifically targeting joint ventures. So, for example, when I came from the airport in León to my hotel, I go down the street and I see Toyota, Nissan, Samsung. I see so many companies are here. If you're a small and mid-sized company and you make components or provide services, you should be knocking on their door saying, hello, we're here. What do you need? How can we help? So that's becoming visible to these foreign invested companies. And that's how small, mid-sized companies can begin to participate.
Yeah, you say something really, really specific, and I guess it is the main point, joint ventures. I mean, the small company maybe feels like they cannot do a lot of work, but if they go with a joint venture, they can make it better, right? Like joint venture between companies, the small and medium companies, they can make themselves a joint venture, or they can make a joint venture with another company. So it is not being alone fighting against some supply chains. It's being together, all together here in Mexico with all your companies that are on your same sector, or going with an international company and make a joint venture. That will be very, very helpful.
What you're bringing up is a very good point. So in China, when you buy something, let's say a product, a hair dryer for drying your hair, there's 80 parts. You talk to the manufacturer, he's an assembler. He buys the plastic from a company down the street. He buys the power cord from someone else down the street, other small businesses. So exactly what you're talking about. Say, for example, furniture makers in Guanajuato should have an association and support a front company that can go out and sell all the capabilities of all the companies that join the association. So exactly the way China businesses work. Okay. In small scale manufacturing, they don't have everything in-house. They work with partners and other companies that want to join their group. So that's exactly what the China did and what Mexico can do.
Yes, we need to learn from the people that were, or the governments that were these steps before us, right? About the people, we are all talking about companies and enterprises going through this nearshoring or Asiashoring. How can we involve the human talent? We need to skill our people. Institutions, educational institutions need to approach and need to know about this. How can you define maybe some terms of not only for the companies, but we need to establish a step for universities and for many other technical institutions. How can you advise us about the human talent?
So we talked about what China did and what Mexico can do. So let's talk about people. In 1980, China opened its doors to the world. It had no knowledge. People didn't know what a supply and demand curve looked like. They had no idea. They studied communist philosophy, not economics. They sent many students abroad to the United States, to Europe in the 80s and 90s. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese left China to go to the US. They stayed. They graduated. They worked for US companies. And then, like a sea turtle goes back to their island where they were born, these Chinese executives came back to China with multinational companies, and they helped transfer the knowledge and train Chinese employees on international business. The overseas Chinese really helped China step up to think global and act global. Same process in India. 25 years ago, Indians coming back, setting up call centers, My question is, how many people from Mexico go off to New York University or Wharton School, stay, and never come back to Mexico? So my first answer to you is Mexico needs to welcome these overseas Mexicans back to say, hey, we're ready to roll here. We're ready to grow and reach an inflection point, grow dramatically. We need you. We need your knowledge. We need your experience. We need your connection. So first thing I do is say, let's try and get some of these, let's make the environment in Mexico desirable for overseas Mexicans to come back and help Mexico grow. The other things you mentioned, university studies, sponsoring students, those are good. Those are essential. But at the leadership level, I think Mexico really needs these overseas Mexicans to come back and help Mexico think global and act global.
Okay, that's excellent. We know around the world, all the economic sector are very important. But from your experience, which are the sector Mexico needs to scale the most, according to the Asiashoring?
So Mexico's top 3 export industries are aerospace, automotive, and medical devices. Those are mainly American companies who are sending production here, making components. Mexico, again, within the USMCA, I'm the low-cost producer. What can I do to help Mexico? Good example, China makes a very large percentage of pharmaceutical products, chemicals, compounds in medicines. The United States thinks this is a national security risk. Mexico should be making those here. The U.S. would welcome Mexico making those here instead of making or buying essential medicines from China. So medicine would be one area. The other is a national, also a national security risk is 5G. The U.S. has said, passed a law and said we will not use any 5G from China. It must be made in the USA. Well, no one in the USA makes 5G components, but we can across the border. Mexico, US can collaborate and move manufacturing. So I would think 5G would also be an area Mexico should prioritize. And third, I would say the best, in my opinion, the most exciting is emergency items. So for example, emergency shelters. You have a pallet with 12 emergency shelters. You open them up and you suddenly have housing for people in floods or hurricanes. If it's made in China, it takes 60 days to get there. If it's made in Mexico, it takes 6 days. So anything related to, because you're just across the border, if you're exporting to the U.S., anything that was urgent, very time sensitive, should be in Mexico.
That's excellent.
Yes.
Yes. We can talk about this for hours and hours,
Okay.
but we have just a small time here. I would like to thank you once again for all of your time, all of your knowledge. We really think that will help for all the listeners in our webcast, all the information that you gave us. For all of you, thank you very much to be with us in our eighth season of Global Talks by COFOSE. We thank you once again for all of your time, and thank you, Lawrence, for being here with us.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you very much.
Gracias por escuchar Global Talk, un podcast de COFOSE, Coordinadora de Fomento al Comercio Exterior del Estado de Guanajuato. Hasta la próxima.
Coordinadora de Fomento al Comercio Exterior, Guanajuato, Gobierno de la Gente.